everyone, thanks for tuning in. You're watching In Deep on the Delta. This is the weekly Delta Fishing Report. We're going to start off with some quick Clear Lake talk. I've got the man here, Dink Mendez, the legend himself, Mr. Rod Strainer Baits. Dink has a house up on Clear Lake, and he is intimately familiar with the lake. He's been going up there, and I wanted to get some information out there from somebody that's really been up there and knows the lake. I've been telling everybody it's been a little sketchy getting in on certain ramps and things, but Dink, you say you were up there last week and you went in out of 5th Street?
Yeah, 5th Street up in Lakeport.
And it's open, and you're saying they redid the ramp and it's good? Yeah,
with the whole parking lot they redid, so a lot of the bumps and everything that used to be in there, it's just been all repaved. They put the striping in for all the parking, and it looks really nice now. Okay. They've done a good job.
So 5th Street is the place to go, and pretty much everything else is closed up, isn't it?
Yeah, everything else is closed off unless you're in a kayak.
Okay.
You know,
yeah, we've been talking about kayak fishing and getting up there.
You see guys out there in kayaks and stuff, and you know, you have the luxury of launching wherever you want to launch practically. So
okay, so we got 5th Street launch ramp that's available, and you can call Clear Lake Bait and Tackle, or you can call Clear Lake Outdoors before you go up there from out of town. Make sure you give one of those bait shops a call just to make sure that it's open. And Dink, you're saying you don't believe the lake's going to go down much farther, and that ramp could stay open for the rest of the winter, right?
Yeah, there's a good possibility that's going to happen, and it looks like we're going to start getting some storms coming in.
Okay.
And since they're up a little north from us, they kind of catch a little bit more rain than we do down here.
All right. So. Well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed that Clear Lake stays stable and actually rises a little bit, and we'll have Clear Lake as a year-round fishery. Now let's get to the good stuff. You were there last week. How was the fishing? What was the bite on? What's going on?
Yeah, the fishing was really good. It allows you to do practically anything you want to do. I kind of stuck with a spinnerbait and the jig, and for the reason is that they were biting though, so I didn't need to change and find out. But like I said, I talked to a few other people doing a few other things, and I didn't have to go. I caught them from 4 feet down to 14 feet, so I didn't have to go.
Were you mostly on rock then, or?
I was in the grass with the spinner baits, fishing the lanes of the grass, and then after that I was on the jig. If you go over to Henderson, you go into Horseshoe, anywhere there's rock. And actually the jig that's been working probably a little bit better has been the football jigs. But you can still use Arkies if you want.
And standard color, crayfish, browns, oranges, green pumpkin.
Green pumpkin, the brown and purple's working really good. The trailer doesn't seem to really matter, but I tend to use a little more of, green pumpkin. Green pumpkin is a good match with almost any color.
Well, that's the word from the man, and like I said, you've been fishing Clear Lake for, 40 years?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the word right now. Hey, thanks a lot for coming out here and passing the word on, and let's get into the Delta Report. Thanks, Dink.
Oh, thank you.
On to the report for the week of October 21st. Before we get back on the Delta here, I want to just say that I'll be uploading a video. It's a short video. It's an interview with Dink, and Dink will be talking about a few of his favorite Delta baits. So if you got a few extra minutes after you watch the report, you can pull up In Deep on the Delta Rod Strainer Baits interview with Dink Mendez. And I also want to give Clear Lake Bait and Tackle a heads up. I talked to Jimmy, who owns Clear Lake Bait and Tackle. He also said that Clear Lake's fishing very well now, especially for the kayak guys that can get in, or if you feel comfortable putting your boat in. But I wanted to hit Clear Lake Bait and Tackle up. Local guy, he's worked really hard on his website. He's got he's selling a lot of online stuff now. Anything you can get in the shop, you can get online. So check out Clear Lake Bait and Tackle, their website. I know he's getting a big shipment of rod strainer baits in, so if you see something on the video that I put up that you like from Rod Strainer, give Jimmy a call or hit his website up, and you can get his any of the Rod Strainer baits from Clear Lake Bait and Tackle. So on to the report here on the Delta. And you know, it's been a little bit of everything. The weather has really been very unpredictable. We've had some absolutely flat, calm conditions, and we've also had, well, check this out, a little wind. With that being said, the fishing has been up and down, but really I think more up than down. Even though the reports haven't been good, there's a lot of fish being caught out here, and we're going to get into some talk about what you can do in this next week that I think could be a really good week for you. Let's start off with the stripers. I talked to Haps Bait. Stripers really didn't take much of a dip. A lot of guys were getting stripers. Haps is saying that most of the fish that they're seeing coming in, obviously they're right there in Rio Vista, so most of their fish are coming from Decker Island to 3 Mile Bridge, or the bridge, it's 3 Mile Slough there. They're catching them both bait and trolling. Mudsuckers have been the bait. They also said that the sturgeon are starting to bite. Haps is getting shipments of live bait about 3 times a week, so if you guys are fishing sturgeon and striper, you can go and hit Haps up and they'll have some live bait for you. They're also reporting that there's a lot more salmon coming in, and I think the Silvertron spinner is what most guys are trolling for the salmon, and Haps said make sure you've got some chartreuse color in that spinner and you'll probably get a salmon. I did talk to Jeff Soo Hoo from Soo Hoo Sport Fishing. He's catching fish as usual. Jeff says he's having to move a little bit more to find the schools, but he's been drifting live bait over the schools and doing pretty well. My friend David, who is a friend of the channel here, we've been out with David fishing a few times. He took his family out and they did really well with Jeff, had a lot of fun, caught some nice fish, and although I heard it wasn't a great day that they picked to go out, they caught plenty of fish. So even on the slow days, it's been pretty decent out here for stripers, and we all have our fingers crossed that it's going to continue, especially for even us largemouth guys. When the largemouth fishing gets tough, it's great to have, you know, another fish to fall back on, and we've got the stripers out here, and just a lot of fun to do these multi-species trips. So that is the striper report. We're going to get into the largemouth bass report, and it's really all over the board. A lot of people are talking about there was a little dip in the fishing, and remember the weather. Let's talk about water conditions first of all. The water temperatures have dropped down to about 60 degrees, 59 degrees, so they're really dropping at 2 to 3 degrees, 2 to 3 degrees a week, and that's the water temperature here in the central delta. I think out north they're talking about maybe even a degree or two down from that. So water temperatures are dropping, and winter's coming on quickly, and we've got a lot of these fronts coming in, and that's been bad for a lot of people. But stick with me here, because what we have coming up this week, the rain and a little bit of wind and these fronts coming in, they're all coming from the south, or it looks like they're coming from the south, and that could be really good fishing. So stick around to this report. Even if you've been a little bit discouraged the last week, I think this week may be a week you want to be out on the river. So let's talk about hook, line, and sinker. They had another one of their tournaments, and that tournament was not overwhelming. 18 pounds won it. I think right around 13 or 14 pounds cashed a check. Talked to Spencer, and he said that it was a tough bite on that particular day. And again, that's a particular day, and one day is feast, one day is famine out here. But Spencer said that there was a lot of guys that had trouble putting fish in the boat, and a lot of the contestants were weighing in 6 to 8 pounds, 10 pounds. So that's tough fishing out here. I am still fishing primarily jerk baits, and chatter baits came into play this week. Been doing a little punching. I'm getting fish. I'm not getting the big fish punching, although I've had a couple fish that I have not been able to put an eyeball in that I think were pretty good fish punching. So this is the word for the end of this week and what we're looking at next week with the rain and the wind coming in. I would definitely stick to moving baits, and if you're going to be punching, You've got to know your areas that you're going to punch. And if you are a hardcore puncher and you want to come out here and just really punch all day long, you can get some big fish. Other than that, I would say keep a punch rod on the deck, but you definitely want to keep a jerk bait and a chatterbait on deck with a also with a crankbait. I would drop the topwaters. I have not done well, and nobody on my boat has done well with the topwater. I've got a few reports that guys are catching a fish here and there on topwaters, but topwaters are really taking a dive for me. So this is the pattern that I have seen this week. Instead of fishing the bank, whether it's rock or tules, I am fishing the flats. I'm getting most of my fish in about 6 to 8 feet of water. Now, flats don't necessarily mean flats like you're going to find in some of the flooded islands, although the flooded islands have been good, but areas that are protected like what we have out behind me, and it may be 5 or 6 feet deep out there, and you've got that Eladia growing up, that's where the fish have been. I've been fishing island points, but last week I talked about fishing right at the point. I'm not getting the fish at the point. I'm going off about 30-40 feet off of that point where you have the submerged vegetation going out and kind of creating a flat off of a point. That's where I have been catching the fish. The bigger fish have been coming on chatterbaits. Getting a lot of fish on jerkbaits, but the bigger fish have been coming on chatterbaits, and I believe the reason why is because I'm able to get that chatterbait down there in 6 or 8 feet of water and pull it through the weeds. So I'm picking up bigger fish on the chatterbait. And when they hit that chatterbait, they're eating it. I mean, that bait is in their mouth, and you're using a pair of pliers to get it out. Same thing with the jerk baits. If you're fishing a jerk bait and a fish, 2 or 3 pound fish comes up, maybe a 3 or 4 pound fish comes up, and they hit that jerk bait, it's not on the side of their mouth. They got half of that bait in their mouth, and they're trying to eat it. So this is a key to me. The bigger fish are starting to eat, and I think this weather pattern right here is a weather pattern that is telling the bigger fish it's time to eat, because the bait that's running around out here now isn't going to be here for very much longer. So if you guys have been out in the last week and you've had a little bit of tough luck, I know it's calling for rain and a little bit of wind, but it's a south wind, it's a warm wind, and this is a perfect time to be out and really get that last chance at having some really good largemouth fishing. It's not guaranteed, but man, don't discount this next week, even though the storms are coming in. They're light storms. There's not going to be a lot of rain. Bring a rain jacket out here. I have got some word from a couple of really reliable sources that they have done very well this last week. Kind of hush hush. And again, I'll just give you that tip. Chatterbaits, jerkbaits. Get out here. Here's another tip I'll give you. Jerkbaits that I've been picking up my bigger fish on have some gold in them. Or if you're using mega bass, that ayu color, it's called an ayu, but it's kind of got that golden brown tinge. That might be a thing to also keep on. With that, guys, get out here. I know it's not perfect conditions, but if you're a hardcore bass guy, now is a good time to be out here. There's not a lot of people. For you guys that are coming up fishing that Wild West tournament, it's going to be a changing environment for the next couple weeks. If you are thinking about fishing that tournament, I would say if you got a punch spot, maybe hit that punch spot, but do not rely on one technique out here, because it is day to day, and I doubt that one pattern is going to hold for 2 days. So if you come out and practice, make sure you try to get a couple of patterns going and be real open-minded to changing around, because you may just kill them one day on a jerkbait, and the next day they're going to be punching or whatever. And you guys know that. You guys know you have to be versatile, but it's going to really come into play here on the Delta. Don't put all your eggs into one basket. That's the report. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We'll see you guys on the water, and see you next week, and I hope everybody gets some big fish this week.